friends, welcome back to Bountifully Blessed. My name is Becky, and if you haven't already subscribed, please subscribe and hit that notification bell so that you can be notified every time I upload. Today is one of the hardest things that I struggle with in the garden. My garden has done exceptionally well since we did our first garden tour. We've had a ton of rain and it's been thriving. But one of the hardest things that I know I struggle with as a gardener is having to go through that process of needing to prune. Pruning is really difficult for me, especially when you're seeing success in your plants and they're thriving, and then you go and just take away what seems to be something that was very hopeful. I know it's for the better. I've seen the progress that pruning has made, but it doesn't make it any less painful when you let it kind of get a little bit more out of control than it should. So that is what we're going to be doing today, is we are going to be pruning up our lovely garden. This is our tomatoes. Last time I got to share my tomatoes with you, they were not this exceptional. It's been really encouraging to be able to see the tremendous amount of progress that we've made since we've staked these up. I did end up staking these, and my lovely string, I did end up wrapping it around each of my tomatoes instead of just setting it aside alongside of them. I did decide to wrap them actually around the stems. I realized that with the amount of wind that we were having, it was causing them to shift side to side. And so we ended up doing this, and this has been tremendous. The plants have really thrived and just done amazing with all of the wind and rain that we have had. So I'm very encouraged to see even all of the different insects that are out and about today. I've got lots of bees and butterflies, and it's just a beautiful day. I'm sad that I have to work because I don't get to enjoy my garden 24/7 as much as I would like. Right here we had our cute little guy. He was stubby when we first started going. He was really struggling. He was stunted when I first planted him. But as you can see, he is doing wonderfully. He's thriving. Definitely way more than I thought possible with how much it was struggling when I first got him in the ground. So now he's got lots of new growth and he's exploding. So I'm very, very glad to see that with our cute little stubby here. Also over here, we've got our peppers. They're actually doing wonderfully, other than our poor little jalapeno that decided to get knocked over. I am keeping him in the ground because I honestly think he may regrow. There's a little bit of growth that was coming in right here, so we're just gonna let that guy do his thing. And so everything is doing really, really well. The rain, I think, has helped tremendously. And then if you didn't get to see my short, I got to post, we have these two guys that are starting to ripen, which is just so much excitement when it comes to seeing that in the garden. So lots of success that we have going on. What we're going to be doing is pruning. It's one of the hardest things to do in the garden. So we are going to prune up our tomatoes. Very difficult for me, but we're going to do it because we know it's the right thing to do. So give me a minute, I'm gonna adjust how I'm gonna have you guys, and I'll show you how you're supposed to prune. Hey friends, so we have got you angled beautifully at our tomatoes here, and I've got a lot of pruning to do. You can choose different areas that you want to kind of be your lead, so to speak. So right here I have my chocolate cherry tomato. This one is doing wonderfully. It's got this massive side shoot here. I'm thinking that I may keep that one on there and allow this to be a 2-liter. And then this guy right here, because he is a lot lower, I don't want my tomato to be more susceptible to disease because of the leaves being so close to the ground. This one obviously needs to be trellised with the rest of the plant. That just kind of got away from me. But what we're going to do is I'm going to prune this off here. This guy, if I were to put him in some water, will root, and I could create a whole new plant from him. So I'm just going to come up to the very edge of the nub there, and I'm going to snip that guy right off. And this is going to turn into a whole new plant if I let it. It's probably too late in my season for me to be able to do that. But what you do if you're going to do that, just pull off the lower few leaves here. And you could stick that in some water. Something that's really cool with tomatoes is being able to have roots all along the entire stem. They are vining plants. So if I were to stick this in some water, this whole stem would grow roots, and I could plant this right here. And see, this is why this is so difficult for me. There was already a new set of actual fruit that's starting to form right there, and that is just so hard for me. But I'll probably go in the house. I will put this in some water. I actually currently do have one I did the other day with my San Marzano tomatoes. And that's just the reality of that guy. So it is what it is. We're gonna let it do its thing and move on with life, because we know it's better for the plant overall. So with this right here, this extra huge side, I'm gonna get this part trellised up at a later time, since that's not what I'm focusing on, but I will get that trellised up, and we'll be able to get that guy going up with the rest of the plant. Now I've got another side shoot here that's coming here. That looks very similar to our other one, and I'm gonna prune that off as well, just because I don't need a whole nother section of the plant coming. And this guy, as you can see, is a lot smaller, but again, right here, this would have been the start to some new little blossoms. So that's why this is so difficult. But I can do the exact same thing with this one. Pull those bottom leaves off, stick that in some water, boom, got a new tomato plant. All right, so our chocolate cherry tomatoes all pruned up, doing really well. I'm gonna take this bottom one off. I normally wouldn't, but the reason I'm doing that is because this was one of the first leaves, and as you can see, it's got some leaf damage. So we'll let that one go, so that way it can grow a new fresh set of leaves there. And now once we get this guy trellised up, we'll have a lot of really good airflow underneath of our plant as well. So we're going to continue to do that with each of our tomatoes. So we're going to move over to this other side here and continue the exact same pattern. Okay, so now that we've got our cherry tomato all pruned, we're going to work on our lovely San Marzano here. This one here and this one are both San Marzanos. This one really just flourished and took off, got really tall, but this one is producing way more foliage. So I don't think that this one is really in need of too much pruning. We'll probably prune the bottom one there. This one, again, this is the difficult part. As you can see, I've got some lovely blossoms here that are all ready to produce me some beautiful tomatoes, and I know that for the benefit of the plant overall, because this is an indeterminate variety, and we will go over that in a later video, but I'm gonna have to prune this guy off. And so word to the wise, if you are going to let your tomatoes continue to go a little bit more wild, then you're gonna have to deal with an unruly, more susceptible to disease plant, or do the hard thing like I'm having to do so that I could wait to do this for you guys. Even though I had to cut those lovely blossoms off, this will be a new plant if I wanted it to be. I do already have one in the house so I probably won't need to do that with this guy, but I can follow the exact same balance of being able to propagate that and turn it into a whole new plant. Same thing on this side here. We have had so much heat. It's been high 90s to 99, so we're gonna trim that guy off too, so that we can make sure that we're getting a lot of airflow underneath this. So we're doing okay there. And then this guy, as you can see, he's definitely, actually no, I thought that was maybe one of the original leaves, but it doesn't look like it is. So we're doing good there. So with pruning, if you're not having to prune off just the bottom sections to make sure that there's a lot of airflow, look at that beautiful airflow that we've got going now. So the wind will be able to thrive and hopefully make my plants thrive a little bit better too. This one here, I think I will leave one of these as a leader as well. I'm thinking this one or this one. They both seem to be doing really good. You know, I could always leave this as a 3-liter and kind of let that go. Honestly, since I've got a lot of airflow under here, I feel confident doing that. So I'm gonna let this one go a little bit more unruly, and we will trellis those up, and we'll be able to see the best benefit from there. And what you're really looking for, if you're not having to prune those particular areas, I'm trying to see if I have an example for you. It doesn't look like I have one on that guy. Now I've got this beauty in the middle here. I did make the mistake of planting a few of these quite a bit too close together. That was not my intentions. It just kind of happened because the first year I planted, I did not have enough shade and my plant did not do very well because of it. So I ended up making the mistake of planting these way too close together, which is something that you live and learn. We'll see. They're doing great. They may just need a little extra pruning. So I've got a great example of this plant here. This is a Jubilee tomato. Very beautiful. I've never grown these before, but their leaves are spectacular. So what I would normally do with a plant like this, if I were just going through and pruning, what you're gonna do is you're gonna be pruning what are called the suckers. So if you look, I've always heard this referred to as the armpit of the tomato plant. So see, you've got the main leader here, and then you've got this lovely side shoot here. This little guy here in the center is what we just had to prune off. That was huge. This little guy, if he's nice and small like this, I've got one here, I've got one here, I've got one up here that you can see is quite a bit larger. There's one down here. So all of these are in what's referred to as the armpit of the tomato plant. Those are ones that you want to snip off as soon as you can. The reason why they're called suckers is because those will produce a whole new plant. If you wanted to be able to propagate like what I can do with those other ones that we got that were so much bigger, you can leave those and let them get bigger. But since I'm not planning on doing that because it's already pretty late in the season for me to try and plant new tomatoes, I'm gonna go through and I'm gonna snip off all of those little suckers so that I don't get a whole bunch of new little plants, so that these guys don't get all unruly. I don't want my plant to be so stunted and short because it's trying to offshoot all of these extra plants. So now that we've done that, I feel a lot more confident about that. However, these leaves down here are a little bit lower than I would care for, so I'm gonna actually trim this guy off, and this one, and this one, just so that I can give him a lot of good airflow and breathing room. This one over here, it is knocking into my other plant just a little bit because, again, my fault. I planted them too close together, but that's okay. If I need to, as the season gets a little bit farther along, I can always prune those off as well. But these leaves, I'm impressed at how huge these leaves are getting and how long they're getting. It's just mind-boggling to me. So I'll get in here with my pineapple heirloom. He's here in the center, and we're gonna do the exact same thing as we've been doing with the rest of our plants here. This guy may just be a little bit harder to get into. So I've got all the way down here, I've got another leader. Now, normally I would trim that, and honestly, I probably should. That is gonna be a hard one for me because he's got some really big blossoms on him. But I know it's for the health of the plant. He's really low down here. All right. Ugh, did the hard thing. So he had some beautiful blossoms on him as well. This one I'll probably try and propagate just because this is such a cool plant. It's a pineapple heirloom. I've never grown those before, and it's just fabulous. And then I've got another one on this other side here that we're gonna trim that guy up so that we've got a lot of good airflow, especially since I made the mistake of planting them so much closer together than intended. So now I've actually got 2 leaders off of this already. If you could see where it splits off here, I've got this guy and I've got this guy. So I've got these both trellised together, and we're gonna let those guys do their thing. So I feel pretty confident about this. This one is fairly small for me to really need to worry too much about pruning at this point. I'm just letting this one enjoy the sunshine and bask in the glory. That is pruning. It can be a very difficult part of gardening, but it's a very necessary part of gardening. So hopefully you found this video informative. And if you have any questions, please shoot a comment down below and I will happily answer any questions that you may have. Thank you so much for joining me, and have an awesome day.